Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani and welcome back to this YouTube channel that takes on all kinds of issues related to narcissism and narcissistic relationships. So, let's talk about something I know more than a few of you have observed. Before I get to that intriguing point, please do subscribe to this channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, get those notifications. Because let's talk about this one. Have you ever noticed that narcissistic people love watching people fight over them? I bet you have. So let's talk about that, because what this relates to is that whole big old word of triangulation, right? The chaos they create. Well, a big reason that narcissists triangulate is because they love when people fight over them. So let's talk about it so you don't give them supply that you don't want to. If only one word were to apply to narcissistic relationships, it's chaos. Nothing is ever easy in these relationships. It's always stressful or volatile or up and down or a roller coaster or riddled with jealousy or infidelity or ghosts from the past that just keep coming up. If it's a family relationship, there can be years and years of people not speaking to each other, or volatile or conflictual holiday dinners, or lots of backstabbing and gossip and flying monkeys. And a lot of this comes down to triangulation. That idea of relational chaos, often in some ways puppeteered by the narcissist to keep everyone off balance and themselves in control. But there is another functionality to the narcissist triangulation, and that is it's a major way for them to get narcissistic supply. You already know this. Narcissistic supply is obviously the air that they breathe, and triangulation, especially in intimate relationships, can result in one of the most validating sources of supply for them, which is people fighting over them. There are few things more joyful for a narcissistic person than people fighting over them. Even as they try to calm everyone down, and narcissistic people love when they can say, everyone calm down, because it makes the narcissistic person look well put together and calm, while other people are spinning out of control, mostly because they're so confused, right? So they're getting some internal glee from that ultimate supply of them being the ones emotionally in control. Narcissistic people often cultivate jealousy, intentionally or inadvertently, but my guess is somewhat intentionally. Whether they do things like being opaque about where it is they're going, or talking about the new coworker they spend so much time with, or the attention they get from someone new, or maintaining poor boundaries with an ex-partner, or atrocious social media behavior, or hiding their phone every time you come in the room. Now let's face it, social media is a major playing field for this, because for narcissists it's like gathering seashells after low tide. There are so many people all clamoring for validation at the same time. And narcissists will follow and like and have people follow them and then play coy. But now you feel jealous. Who is that girl in the bikini? Who is that person lifting weights in that picture? Who is that person who keeps commenting with hearts on your picture? You see them doing this. And I'm telling you now, this is adolescent type behavior that I'm even watching 50-year-old people just, that's a whole different thing. But while narcissistic people will push back with anger, what, don't you trust me? Or, oh, I hate your paranoia. What's your problem? I need to be on social media for my work. And narcissistic people may even threaten leaving the relationship. Listen, you are too jealous for me. I can't do this. And by the way, when they say that, it's a bit of a stonewally, gaslighty maneuver. Then you're like, no, it's my fault. I'll be more secure. I'll stop making comments. But then they continue their shady, uncomfortable behavior, and the cycle continues, and they keep hiding their phone, on and on. So when you recognize that you being jealous is you giving them supply, it makes more sense. It's not that difficult for a person to keep their life in order, to maintain clear boundaries with other people, and commit to boundaries, because that's the right thing to do in a relationship. It is difficult for a narcissist to do those things because they need all that validation. And another way to get validation is to create triangulation and jealousy. So when a narcissistic person cultivates jealousy and they create the sense that people are fighting over them, it is sheer bliss for them, even as it causes misery for you. Now, this jealousy creation happens in families too. Obviously, it looks different. It may be a narcissistic parent making their time very scarce to everyone and telling each child that they are a favorite and what is wrong with their siblings. And then the siblings may argue about the parent, who gets to sit in the front seat with them or who gets to spend the day with them. It feels a little less pronounced, but oftentimes a narcissistic family member will almost create a sense of scarcity around themselves. I only have an hour, and then families may argue about spending time with them. Again, this dynamic does not tend to be as pronounced, this narcissistic jealousy dynamic, as it is in couples. I have to say that the people who would get off on sort of, those Jerry Springer-esque shows about paternity and who was sleeping with who and DNA tests, and who appear to get a sense of glee over the human train wreck of two people fighting over them, that likely is a narcissistic presentation. The idea of the romantic duel of two people fighting over one another is an ancient trope that has been a part of our mythology since the most ancient myths all the way up to present time rom-coms. Not everyone in one of these situations takes pleasure in them, but the narcissist cultivates this. They claim they don't, but the validation of multiple people vying for them is irresistible. It's often a working out of earlier triangulated conflicts from childhood for the narcissistic child who was either replaying the golden child drama or the grandiose fantasy of being the child who is chosen, and that never got worked through because the parents were too distracted to notice anyone in the family system. So if you are in a narcissistic relationship and you feel you are in a constant setup of sort of this jealous wondering about other people in your partner's life, or you keep getting into the same fights about being insecure about other people, take a step back and recognize that you may be playing into their desire for supply. And sadly, because so many people who are stuck in narcissistic relationships are often still working out their own stuff about feeling that idea that love needs to be earned and trying to win over a narcissistic partner since they could never win over their own narcissistic parent, or the fantasy of being chosen by the partner after a childhood of not being chosen. Well, this dynamic plays right into that vulnerability too. And it is the reason that these narcissistic jealousy relationship cycles seem to spin out for a very long time. Both the narcissistic person and the person with whom they are in a relationship with are working through their own respective psychological wounds and issues in their relationship. But once you have the clarity, it becomes a moment to step back and take stock and recognize that you can't work out your childhood issues in your adult relationship. Those hurts from childhood can be grieved, but they can't be erased. The narcissist loves the supply that comes from people fighting over them. And for the three people that might be fighting over the narcissist, those folks are often trying to be seen and chosen after their own childhood issues of not being seen and chosen. The ultimate play, when the narcissist is trying to get you worked up with jealousy, don't play that game. Ideally, don't notice. And then figure out if you want to be in a relationship with someone who does play these games. These kinds of triangulated jealousy games are not healthy for anyone involved, including the narcissist. But I really want you to think that through. Jealousy really speaks to two sets of conflicts: the narcissist's need for supply and the idea that two people are fighting over them. That's some sort of unresolved Oedipal nonsense. And then for people who are really, really bothered by jealousy, it can often speak to their own issues around triangulated families and not feeling chosen. That all gets mixed up in the narcissistic relationship. But if you want the ultimate narcissist kryptonite, and there's a whole jealousy thing brewing, and I know this won't be easy, is that you play it cool and you don't say anything, but you're thinking, this doesn't feel good that this person's interacting like that. Instead of trying to win the narcissist, because that's always it, right? I'm going to win my parent back. It's always that childhood conflict. Instead of getting stuck in the, I'm going to be the one to win. Who wants this prize? It's a booby prize. It's like those overly big stuffed animals you win at the fair. What the hell do you do with that thing when you get it home? You want to win it, but then you get it home like, oh man, I have nowhere to put this. It's the same thing with the narcissist. It's a booby prize. You don't need this. And so when you see that you're starting to get pulled into this jealousy dynamic, let the other person have them. The narcissist won't like that you don't get into that jealousy dynamic with them because they're counting on that fight. They need the supply. There is nothing better than not giving a narcissist their supply. It feels good because you recognize that even though it always feels like they have the power, once you realize that you're the holder of the supply, it's like you're the bank. You got all the stuff and they keep trying to get it from you. And once you put it that way, you realize, I don't have to give them the supply. And then it's over. Checkmate. So hope you can learn from that one. And that's what they want. They want to watch you fight over them. So don't give them the satisfaction. Thanks again.